All right, so the most common question I get while live streaming is, hey, what do you think about the league? What do you think about the league mechanic? What do you think about the Druid? Let's answer those questions. This is going into day number 3. I am 30 hours into the game. I am playing Wyvern Druid, and I am playing Flame Breath. When I saw this move both in the trailer and when I was visiting their headquarters earlier, I thought to myself, that looks fucking badass. I absolutely have got to try this thing. And I did. And it is kind of badass. And it does do damage. And I do like it. That being said, as you're going to notice here when I start playing the video game, there is a lot of bugs. Look at that. Here's one. Here's an example. There's quite a bit of bugs. I get stuck in walls all of the time. There's visual glitches. Cooldowns are kind of weird. Like if I watch my Flame Breath, watch the Flame Breath here. If I let off the Flame Breath, like that, and then it goes, you know, just continues to cool down. It's off cooldown. You think that works, you know, that's normal, right? But if I hold the Flame Breath, and I have a lot of rage because I'm building it kind of like they intend, which is the more rage you have, the longer you can hold it. And if I hold it beyond the cooldown, which is like, there you go, now I should be able to just do it again, right? Well, when I drop it, it literally goes on cooldown again, and I have no idea why. So there is what I would consider bugs or, you know, jank and type of stuff related to the Druid. Now, I can't really speak for the Wolf. I haven't really been playing the Wolf. I did play Bear. I did experience bugs on the Bear, but the Bear is actually pretty fun. A lot of people like the Walking Calamity build, I'm hearing, and I've seen a couple clips. Looks pretty good, and I definitely think the Wyvern is actually pretty fun. The Rin basic attack is like kind of nutty. It gives you like 150% more AoE. That's just one of the reasons I like it, but all in all, the Wyvern's been pretty fun. Here's some single target, like DPS example for you. And this is, you know, not really a juiced map, but it's a tier 15. And I have like 6 out of 10. I killed Arbiter and shit already. So I have, you know, you can see it's got 5 million HP or something on this boss. So, you know, there is damage to be had. Nothing absolutely insane, but it's pretty fun. You know, it's enough to enjoy the video game and, you know, be able to kill some shit. So, and here's a good example of, like, the jank. You see, like, the cooldown. It said I had the cooldown, but I guess I don't. And then I'm just, like, flying around with a happy, smiling face. Look at that happy fella. Look at him go. He's loving life right now. So, you know, there's what I would consider, you know, I'm going to put it this way. I understand why it wasn't the Druid I'm referring to wasn't released in 0.3. I'm going to put it that way. Probably wasn't very rating. Okay? However, the Druid was pretty fun. Wasn't too bad through the campaign. I heard some people struggle, but like I didn't have any problems playing Wyvern. I was like basically just one-shotting most of the bosses. Better damage than what you even see here because, you know, this is scaled damage going in more into the in-game. And Druid's fun. So for me, overall, Druid was a W. The Ascendancies, I'm a little mixed on. Like, the Ascendancies are pretty cool, and there's definitely a lot you can do. Oracle is, you know, looking way better than we thought it was going to be because the way Inevitable Crit and all that works. Shaman's pretty cool. I haven't 4 out of 4 in my Ascendancy, honestly, because I just hate the trial. I'm almost like level, well, I'm 88 here. I definitely could do it by now. I got the damage. I mean, I killed Arbiter for God's sake, but I haven't done the trial, and that's just because I hate doing the trials. But Ascendancies are pretty cool, and overall, I think the Druid, from what I've seen, has been pretty well received, other than some people struggling to like figure it out in the beginning. But that's kind of just like, that's PoE, baby. That's how it works. Some of the moves, I will say one last thing about the Druid before we move on. Some of the moves are like, just kind of don't feel great. Like Rolling Magma, I tried to make Rolling Magma work. I'm sure somebody out there will make this work, you know, better than I could. But Rolling Magma did not feel like that great, to be honest. It's probably going to be used maybe as like a detonator with I don't know, Corpse Weight and Nova projectiles or just something. Someone will figure out how to make Rolling Magma work, and I'll be there to look at them and cheer them on when they do it because it ain't going to be me. That being said, let's talk about the rest of the league. Now, the other part of the league, one point about in-game, then we're going to talk about the league mechanic. The in-game density, like, you know how they changed monster density where it scales like there's less mobs in the higher tier, but they're like stronger. I can feel that from an HP perspective. Don't really feel it from a density perspective. Now, this is like the most softcore trade build you're ever going to see. I have like basically no defenses. I get one shot by almost everything, but like mobs seem to be like, I don't really know there's a massive difference in the amount of mobs. Maybe I'll notice it more as I really start to like triple juice and corrupt maps to tier 16 and like all of those shenanigans, and I completely finish my tree. I'm 36 out of 40 here and like 6 out of 10 here. Maybe I'll feel the difference a little bit more than, yeah, sure. But for right now, like, there was a little bit of a much to do about nothing. It's like, see, here's a great example. I'm stuck in a wall again. You can just see this is just, there's some jank with it. But the density isn't really that big of an issue. Let's talk about the league mechanic. Now, I'm going to try to keep this decently positive so I don't do a yucking your yums type situation if you are really enjoying this league mechanic. I am mid to not enjoying it, is where I'm at with it. And I'm going to give my reasons why. First, let me say the good things about it. It is very in-depth. It is much more of a league mechanic than like Breach, where it's like kill mobs in a circle. This is like a very in-depth thing, which obviously there's a lot of understanding that will help you generate more outcome, which would be more of a benefit for you. Unfortunately, I don't think many players that play this game like, you know, casually, or to use the tourist meme, I think when people play this game like from league to league and they play it for a few days, maybe get just past the campaign, I don't think there's a lot here for them. The reason is the amount of time that's really required to get into this thing and really get your meat and bones in it is substantial. So it is designed in a way in which I feel like people like me who play the game basically as a no life, like I said, I got 30 plus hours already this league. It's designed more for us to have something to do throughout the longevity of the league. But even myself, okay, I find it hard to interact with. And the reason for that is the amount of time it takes for me to actually be able to like run these tempos. You have to basically run 6 maps to get 6 of the crystals, and then it gives you these paths that you can place. That's 6 maps, and 6 maps can actually take a while, and that's just to like do one run of it. I'm not talking a run all the way through to the boss. I'm talking a run to be able to just place more paths. So I have still killed at Zeri 0 times. Now, part of this is actually a large chunk of this is skill issue, because I need to actually like place the paths correctly so I can get the Ascendancies chamber. That is obviously a skill issue, but the other part of it is like it's kind of over designed in a way in which the amount of leeway to someone like figuring out the pathings and all that is like almost zero. Like there's not a lot of ability to like move these around or anything. It's made like its own like separate game, which is pretty cool actually. Like I see this being like its own separate thing almost entirely. But then in this, if it was a completely separate game, and that type of game, this is all I would be doing. So I don't have like this homework of going and doing 6 maps to be able to re-engage with it again. So I have a lot of like downtime in between being able to actually engage with the mechanic. Then if I make a mistake and like block at Zeri or something like that, right? And I think this is like, I could solve this eventually, but like then the amount of gameplay I'm going to have to do to actually like reset the Atlas and then, or reset the temple. And then after I reset it to get all the paths again is like fairly substantial. And then I actually have to like wait to get the right paths RNG to be able to make, like there was many times that this was open, and I placed this here because I didn't know if this was going to connect or not. Sometimes this connects, sometimes like this one connected, but it didn't connect there. I didn't know if it was going to. Maybe that's another skill or knowledge issue or something. But like it does seem like an issue somebody could run into. But the amount of times I needed like just a straight path to go here and I didn't get it for like, I'm talking 18, 24 plus paths. I just don't get enough tiles. This shit never fucking reaches. Like, it doesn't want to give me paths. It comes down to player agency. Like, I don't feel like I have enough agency over like actually building this the way I want. I kind of like playing with the ones they get and then just kind of trying to figure out which ones are plus, etc. It's not all entirely clear. All of the parts are there, but the user-facing portion of it to like understand it is basically by trial and error. But then the error is like heavily punishing because you can't like fix mistakes fairly easily. And then there's not really like a lot telling you like what makes it, you know, what makes this one better, etc. So it's just, it's something that once it's been in the game for multiple leagues and we all know exactly the layout to do and exactly how to do it, then it's not going to be a big deal. But for like, I worry a little bit about the newer players playing this, especially on the free weekend, and they interact with this, you know, and they start laying out the paths in order to know what to do with this thing and all that. It just takes a substantial amount of time, enough so where I actually find myself procrastinating, even wanting to do the mechanic. I like the mechanic, but then I find myself like, I kind of don't want to like go run the temple or something like that. So just my initial impression and feedback. There's an argument to be made about the reward portion of it being pretty good early in the campaign. You get campaign, like I got Exalts and Regos and stuff like really early in the campaign, and that was nice. I was like, oh man, I'm like slamming stuff. It felt great. But then like when I run this now, unless I like already knew perfectly how to get the tier 3s on everything, like the rewards kind of like suck. Like I'm not going to use a regal thing. I have like as many regals as I could ever need. By the time I'm in tier 15 maps, like a lot of these rewards are just kind of bad. And then by the time I actually get to the maps, the tier 15 maps where like maybe I could actually start juicing mechanic, I've either already bricked this thing if I didn't know what I'm doing because I'm learning it, or the amount of runs I'm going to need to actually do to get this thing to be reset again, and all of that is fairly substantial. So like at this point, I basically have to run and do an architect to get this thing to reset, and then it's kind of rebuilding the temple again, and it's a lot of the map. So might sound like a lot of negatives. However, the way I feel about this is, in its current state, I think it needs to be adjusted. That's just like straight off the rip, that's my take. However, I don't think it's too far away from being a really cool mechanic, because the fundamental concept is there. Like, this idea of like building your own temple and juicing up your own thing is a good mechanic. It's both a numbers problem of getting the juicing just right, which admittedly I need to put more hours into it to understand how good the loot actually is at the end game. I freely admit that, but I think it's going to be more of a numbers balance thing, plus a little giving players a little bit more player agency and less punishment of like fucking up your paths and making sure you can maybe get the tokens you want. Like, even if I could just like grab this and move this over here and then like grab like this one and then put it there, it would immediately make the temple like just so much more enjoyable, because then I actually feel like I'm kind of building this thing a little bit more. I understand they probably want it to be like your decisions matter with this type of thing, but until you can actually look into the future and like know what you're doing with the pieces you're going to get, it does feel a little bit like you're getting punished a lot and you need a lot of gameplay. So that's like my initial impression. You are more than welcome to disagree. Maybe you had a fantastic first run. You ran right to Adziri. You got the great drop. It feels good. You're nothing but 10 out of 10. And that's fine. Like, I'm glad for you if that's the case. But this is like, my first impression of this is, as compared to like any other League mechanic, it's like Abyss, kill the mobs. You just kill the mobs and you jump down the thing, you kill more mobs. You know what you're doing. I'm not necessarily against the concept of having more in-depth leagues. I like them. I fell in love with mini games in PoE 1 about having like all these side stuff. I like side things to do. But the clearness of it in contrast with some of the other parts of the game, which is kill the mobs, do the expedition, like all of the other mechanics make sense. You know what you're doing. You can look ahead and be satisfied with the loot as it goes. It scales with your maps, etc. And then this one is kind of like, here's a whole nother game to learn. You know what I mean? On the side, which is both good and a problem depending upon how much time you have available and how much you want to go down the rabbit hole. Now, a side point, if you are somebody who only really cares about currency acquisition and loot and an economy player, I don't know how much you're engaging with this. This is like something I feel like you actually want to do from a, I am somebody who, you know, wants to play it because I find it fun type of perspective. Again, this could change like as you get to Aztiri and as you farm some of these other locations, and like the lineage gems would be really good to farm, etc. So that, you know, my opinion on that is to be determined. I'm sure these currency vaults could like be something good, etc. But like kind of in the mid game portion where you just get to tier 15s, etc. and I'm like trying to farm, I always find myself just thinking I could just run some more abysses. That's kind of where I find my headspace going. That's about it. Just current thoughts on the League mechanic, current thoughts on the Druid. Overall, Druid seems to W. I think the League mechanic could use some adjustment to be a little bit more accessible for like the common man. Outside of that, mob density is not that big of a deal. In-game's pretty much the same. There's not like much of a difference in in-game. The Abyss tree, notably, I'll just mention this real quick. The Abyss tree is actually pretty cool. Like, I like these changes, you know? You add the more rogue exiles, chance for maps to be overrun. Like, this is pretty good. I like that. The Abyss is like still pretty decently juicy, etc. I will say that with homogenizing being gone, like items seem to have some value. I'm selling items that are like elemental res and life, just like 10, 15, 20 exalts. Like people just need basic gear. And because of like the lack of like OP crafting currently in the game, it does feel a bit to me like just mid-tier gear actually has value again. So depending upon how you feel about that, that's something I've noticed as well. Hopefully that answers your questions. That is my initial review. I think this patch this league is like one or two solid patches of adjustment of the league mechanic and some bug fixes, because the Druid like definitely has some jank bugs to it, away from being like a pretty solid league. I think most people are probably going to have like the Abyssal League better because of the addition of the Act and the addition of like all the crafting mechanics and fundamentally just like how much of the game actually changed there, as opposed to like this is mostly about a very in-depth league mechanic and a new class addition. That's about it. Love you all. Thanks for watching. I'm live now if you want to join the live stream and watch me play through the Druid, and we're going to try the new Sork Ascendancy as well. That's about it.